Greetings, dear viewers. This is the Cross Moda channel. The history of motorcycle engineering is full of various interesting designs, unusual machines, and both brilliant and not so brilliant ideas. Some of them gained worldwide fame and great recognition, but even more have been consigned to oblivion. The name of Friedel Münch, a German, is little known to the general public, but it was Friedel who, in the mid-1960s, was one of the first to come up with the idea of creating a hyper motorcycle with a large engine. The name of his creation is Münch Mammut, a motorcycle that, at the end of the 1960s, could boast 88 horsepower and a top speed of 230 km/h. Make yourself comfortable, let's get started. The Münch Mammut motorcycle was probably the fastest, most expensive, and most powerful motorcycle at the time of its debut. And to understand how and why this German two-wheeled giant appeared, you need to get to know its creator, Friedel Münch. Friedel was born in Dorn-Assenheim on February 6, 1927. At a young age, his imagination was captured by technology, and in particular motorcycles. After finishing school, Münch successfully completed training as a bus and car mechanic. In 1944, at the age of 17, he was drafted into the Wehrmacht and served as a mechanic in the Luftwaffe. The war ended, and Münch Jr. founded a small workshop together with his father, who ran a Horex agency and an Aral gas station near Friedberg. Friedel worked on repairing motorcycles in this workshop. Meanwhile, to expand his knowledge, Münch earned excellent grades in mechanical and electrical engineering exams through a correspondence school. In 1948, Münch began competing in road circuit races, and he rode a 500cc Horex C5 that he had personally modified, which he called the Münch Special. However, Friedel didn't stay in motorsport for very long. After a crash, he gave up racing and focused entirely on repairing and building motorcycles. In 1955, Münch got a position in the Horex testing and racing department, but after 6 months, he left that job. A year later, the Horex company, facing financial difficulties, stopped producing motorcycles, and Münch bought some of the production equipment, parts, and documentation for the two-cylinder 400 ECC engine from the Imperator model. At that time, Friedel was already considering the idea of building his own motorcycle. In short, the idea was to build a large and powerful motorcycle that would be strong, durable, easy to repair, and handle well. In the early 60s, by the way, Friedel was making very high-quality drum brakes for motorcycles. The drum was made of magnesium and had an impressive diameter. These products were very popular among racers. At first, Münch planned to create an inline 4-cylinder engine from 2 engines from Imperator. However, this idea was not successful. In 1965, while searching for a suitable design, the hardworking inventor came across a 55-horsepower inline 4-cylinder engine from the new 1-liter NSU Prince car model. It took about another 9 months to build a motorcycle with this engine. On February 27, 1966, the first example of the mighty big motorcycle was ready, and it was called the Münch 4. The prototype was presented to a small audience of experts and a few journalists. Ernst Leverkus, a very significant figure in the German motorcycle industry of the 60s and 70s, was so impressed by the appearance of the motorcycle that he immediately gave the bike the name Mammoth. Want an interesting fact? In reality, Friedel Münch's creation was never officially allowed to bear the name Mammut, that is, Mammoth. That name was already taken, and it would have been a copyright infringement. But Münch's fans didn't care about that fact. For them, the big German Hyperbike was firmly associated with the Mammoth. The first model was equipped with a 1000cc 55 horsepower engine from Nesu, which was paired with a 4-speed gearbox, apparently from Horex. The tubular frame was made in the style of the frames used on British Norton motorcycles. A number of cast parts, intended to lighten the construction, were made from outrageously expensive magnesium. A proprietary 250mm drum brake was installed on the front wheel. However, a number of problems surfaced on the very first prototype. Neither the clutch nor the rear wheel spokes could withstand the engine's torque. The second Mammoth model caused a sensation at the IFMA exhibition in Cologne in the fall of 1966. This prototype received a cast magnesium rear wheel and a number of other modifications. The power unit was an 1100cc NSU engine. By the end of 1967, only 4 Münch 4 Mammoth motorcycles with this engine had been built. The maximum speed of these motorcycles was around 180 km/h. Compared to motorcycle technology of that time, the first Münch bikes were a real sensation in the motorcycle world. But for now, the motorcycle didn't quite reach Hyperbike levels in terms of speed and power. However, already in 1967, a 1177cc engine from the NSU TT was installed in the motorcycle frame. Friedel Münch modified it a bit, increasing the power from the original 65 to 88 horsepower. And thanks to this potential, the 300-kilogram motorcycle could accelerate up to 220 km/h, an unbelievable speed for a production street motorcycle of those years. It's worth mentioning the other side of the motorcycle business. Organizing mass production requires not only a finished piece of equipment, but also solving a lot of financially demanding issues. Right after IFMA 1966, Friedel Münch's partner was publisher and multimillionaire Floyd Clymer. At first, the cooperation was quite productive, but the investor's illness got in the way. In 1970, the son of an American millionaire, George Bell, who joined.
В качестве его преемника.
Bell, an avid biker, was full of ideas and drive. He wanted to increase the production of Münch 4 and continue expanding the business in the U.S. For advertising, he acquired the URS racing team, and Münch motorcycles competed in sidecar races. A modern facility for producing mammoths was also built not far from Friedberg. In 1971, Horst Ovesli and his co-driver, the Englishman Peter Rutherford, took part in the Sidecar World Championship on a Münch URS, and by the end of the season, they became champions. But right after the sensational success came disappointment. The enterprising company boss, George Bell, quietly left for the USA, and a huge mountain of debt was left behind. Creditors demanded payment of overdue bills, and banks stopped issuing loans. And this happened due to poor motorcycle sales. The reason was the high price. By the end of 1969, this exclusive large motorcycle cost about 8,000 marks, or about $2,200 at that time. For that amount, you could easily buy a good car. For comparison, in the same year, the Honda CB754 was already available for 6,450 marks. By 1971, the price had risen to a solid 10,000 marks. Considering the high production costs and the almost handcrafted manufacturing, Münch was earning very modest amounts from his machines. There was no question of assembly line production. Each motorcycle was assembled by hand. As a result, no two Mammuts are alike. The manufacturer took into account the wishes of each customer, so you can find models with a large single headlight or a double one. The gas tank was handmade according to the future owner's specifications. There were single-seat and two-seat options, and much more. By 1972, Mammut was no longer the most powerful and fastest. Japanese inline fours had pushed it aside, but Friedel was not one to back down easily. In 1973, instead of the two Weber carburetors, he equipped the engine with a fuel injection system and increased the power to 103 horsepower. And once again, his motorcycle became the fastest production bike, reaching about 230 km/h. By the way, in 1972, as an experiment, 2 units of the Münch 3 were produced, with a 3-cylinder, 2-stroke, 650cc 90 horsepower engine. Despite all efforts, it was becoming increasingly difficult to sell the Mammuts. Being a talented engineer, Friedel Münch was not a talented businessman. The financial affairs of his company were going extremely badly. In 1974, he had to sell his business to Heinz Hinke. Suddenly, the chief engineer and owner became an employee in his former company. Obviously, this couldn't go on for long. In 1976, he parted ways with Hinke and the company. Under Hinke's leadership, 3 more Mammut TTS 1200s were produced by 1980. A total of 478 Münch TTS 1200 motorcycles were built. No more, no less. Taking into account the early series of 30 units and the experimental models, their number slightly exceeds 500. If you think that's where it ended, you're mistaken. After leaving his own company, Münch, still an indefatigable inventor, continued to create. In his workshop, he repaired, serviced, and improved his creations. Many of the old motorcycle buyers remained loyal to Münch. Whether it was a regular inspection, repair, or some kind of technical improvement, soon the small workshop was filled with many Mammoths. In the following years, he repeatedly developed improved models. He made new cast wheels and equipped the Mammoths with disc brakes. The engineer also developed kits to increase the engine displacement to 1,400 and 1,600 cc. He upgraded 7 units of the Münch 4 TTSI by installing a supercharger. The 125 horsepower beast accelerated up to 240 km/h, but even that wasn't enough. Through painstaking work, he single-handedly put 3 motorcycles on the road with the name Horex 1400T turbo injection. These bikes were very similar to Münch 4, but turned out to be even more powerful. The Horex 1400 engine produced about 143 horsepower. At the request of his American friend Paul Watts, Münch went even further. He built an excellent motorcycle specifically for the first chairman of the American Münch Club, the Titan 1800E. A little later in 1987, the Titan 1600 followed. Another highlight was the Titan 2090. In 1991, Münch suffered a stroke, and yet in the mid-90s, he once again developed the experimental motorcycle Münch Mammut 2000. This prototype remained a one-of-a-kind. In 1997, Münch was visited by entrepreneur Thomas Petsch. He bought the rights to the Münch brand, and together with Friedel, he developed a modernized version, the Münch Mammut 2000. 15 units of this machine were built between 2000 and 2002, first in Poland and then in Nuremberg. This modern 2-liter mastodon boasted 260 horsepower and a torque of 295 Newton-meters, thanks to the 2-liter turbocharged engine. The top speed was electronically limited to 250 km/h. A series of 250 motorcycles was planned, but the Mammut 2000 faced the same problems that its predecessor encountered 30 years ago. There were very few people willing to shell out 90 grand in euros. The story of the mastodons came to an end. Between 2008 and 2012, Petsch and his team of engineers developed something under the name Münch. 2 models of racing electric bikes, the TTI-1 and its successor, the TTI-2. But this is no longer the monstrous machine that the word Mammut is firmly associated with. On April 27, 2014, the heart of engineer and creator of unique motorcycles, Friedel Münch, stopped beating. As Münch himself said in a 1988 interview, "All I ever wanted was to build motorcycles, but some people I did business with wanted to take advantage of that and try to get rich quick. I was deceived, but still today I am a happy man because I never hurt anyone. And most importantly, I am still making motorcycles. This is the story of the Hyper motorcycles created by Friedel Münch. By the way, this unique machine appeared in the movie Mammoth starring Gerard Depardieu. Here are some shots. This brings my story to an end. As usual, this was the Cross Moto channel. We have a lot of interesting material about motorcycles coming up, so don't hesitate to support the channel by subscribing, sharing, and commenting. For those who want to support with money, the details are in the video description. Thank you, and see you next time.